What a day, what a journey, what a moment for our people. It's Democracy Day in Nigeria, 46 days to the governorship election in Ekiti State, 117 days to that of Osun State, and 262 days to the 2019 general elections. Well, it's Political Stew on Television Continental. I'm Sulaiman Aleda. Welcome. So in our kitchen today, we'll be looking at a mixed porridge in Nigeria's politics and national development. You can watch us live online on the go at tvcnews.tv live streaming. And we're live on YouTube. You can search for us, TVC News Nigeria Live. Now, a whole lot happening before the big moment, which is 2019. We have all that beautiful moment coming up in Ekiti State, and that election will be one moment for a lot of people to test the umpire and see if this is what exactly it is. We have the timeline for you on the 30th of May. That's this month. It's going to be the last day for withdrawal by candidates or candidate, or even replacement of withdrawn candidates. And when you move on into the month of June, 13th of June, that'll be the last day for the submission of nomination forms by political parties, also for the governorship election in Ekiti State. Thereafter, we're likely to see another moment, and that's the publication of final list of nominated candidates, which comes up on the 14th of June, 2018. And what else should we be getting for the INEC calendar? That's the publication of notice of poll. It comes up on the 30th of June, also this year, before the big day. And, well, thereafter, INEC will also come up with something, and it has to do with the submission of names of party agents. That's the same date, 30th, and don't forget that that's one key criteria that you'll be getting from the political parties. They must produce their own agents for this election, just more or less like their eye on the day. But the last day for campaigns usually is 2 days before the moment, and for this one is going to be 12th of July. And thereafter, they shut the windows, the doors and the gates to campaigns leading up to the big day, which is 14th of July, 2018. Well, everything is on the stove burning, and when we come back, we'll be looking at what exactly we're looking at today, being a fantastic moment in the life of every Nigerian and for the country. Well, Nigeria's democracy is sweet, sour, or flat is what we're looking at today. Well, from 1999, Nigerians have witnessed different ingredients all thrown in our democratic plate. Some have plates broken in the course of making a wholesome democracy, which the people hunger for, having tasted years of military rule. So in the menu, just as some crave for a fine meal free of pebbles, it would seem as if others' job is to fill the pot with the unwanted stones for meal. So as the happenings are unwrapped before the people, the nation wonders how the umpire, the players, spectators, and even the fence climbers have all managed to keep the pot on the fire. Is our focus tonight on Political Stew. Joining us is one of Nigeria's leading activists, columnist, and author, Professor Oke Ndibe. Good to have you join us this evening.
My delight.
And of course, we also have with us here Dr. Theodore Ekechi, but a lot of people would want to call him by his well, initials, To Ekechi. Good to have you here. He's an entrepreneur and also a publisher.
Let me say this. Thank you very much.
Well, good to have you
here.
Well, happy Democracy Day. And in our Abuja studios, because one key feature that distinguishes a democracy from any other form of government is the legislature. And today we'll be having the spokesman of the National Assembly, Dr. Sabi Abdullahi. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Sabi Abdullahi, good to have you join us on a fine day like this. Let's start off with Professor Ndibe. Quickly tell us, in 1999, when we got this democracy back on track, what was the feeling like for you when you saw it that, hey, at last we have a democratic government in place?
Well, my feelings were ambivalent for several reasons. On the one hand, one was quite happy that the years of military rule had come to an end, and that that perhaps Nigerians were going to have an opportunity at exploring their lives through democratic governance. But then there was a bit of disquiet, given the way that the military government, which was retreating, had overdetermined the way that that democracy was to be shaped. I would say that the constitution that we were given was troubling in a lot of respects, and that the processes that brought the first president in the current dispensation, Olusegun Obasanjo, into power were equally disturbing. So it was as if, in a lot of ways, the military men who were retreating from power nevertheless wanted to teleguide the process from, from a remote location. So, and I don't think that we have done particularly well.
Cool. So for you, Dr. Kechi, do you think if we to go with him, did it look like a change of, an attire different from what we saw pre-1999? Perhaps maybe the uniforms were taken off, because he did say that the Constitution had a semblance of what it is like in the military era.
Well, let me start by saying that as a person living there, I would say I wasn't that matured as I am now. I wasn't really expecting a miracle to happen, given that we're having a transition from military to civilian rule. For me, it was a miracle that it happened when it did, that we even transited from military to civilian, because a lot of people, given the circumstances and given the test that the military had developed for power, and also given the hunger, the kind of hunger they have for power, and given the way and manner they were benefiting from being in power, particularly themselves, their spouses, their family, and their extended friends, one would have thought that it was an impossible task to accomplish. So for me, it was a good thing for the country that it did happen at all. It was like starting a journey of 1,000 kilometers. That first step that we took was a defining moment. It was a defining period, defining era in the history of Nigeria. So, and I want to say that I am not one of such Nigerians that usually made the conclusion that we have not done very well. When you want to rate how far Nigeria has been able to fare politically since 1999, you have to look at the circumstance of Nigeria as a nation. What are we made of? Look at our diversity. The number of languages that was even recognized when our first national anthem was developed. Though tongues and tribes may differ in brotherhood, that brotherhood is a little bit artificial. The natural thing is that there is diversity in the tongues and tribes. That we have been able to hold ourselves together this far is a miracle.
We'll come back to you. Just hold your thought there. Perhaps I should have even told Prof that he's a politician, so that you know where it's coming from. So it's good that we have a Professor Ndibe here who's going to help us dissect every other thing. Professor Ndibe, if you look at, he did say he would never write it all off. So he still thinks that there's still some amount of good. You have been critical about so many things and the way we're going over the years, even when you wrote for Next, the defunct Next newspapers. Has anything changed in the way and manner we have evolved as a people coming from the military era?
Well, I have to say that for me it was important, as he stated, it was important that the military retreated. What's not impressed me, what has not impressed me, is the way that military elements, holdouts from past military regimes, became central to the democracy and brought a temperament to our so-called nascent, we used to talk about our nascent democracy. They brought a temperament that in a lot of ways was indistinguishable from military rule, right? And Obasanjo was a particularly disastrous person to shepherd our first beginnings in this current democratic experience. So if you look at...
So why did you say so?
Well, if you look at a lot of the things that Obasanjo did, if you look at the ways in which he defied the National Assembly, the ways in which he intimidated or ignored the judiciary, the ways in which within his own party he enthroned some of the most reprobate elements, okay? People who were the least enlightened elements, Obasanjo really supported and put in positions, whether it's in Anambra State where an ill-educated godfather was put in control by the Obasanjo machinery, or whether it was in Oyo State where Lamido Adedibu was allowed to use the police force to harass at will the then governor, Mr. Ladoja. So Obasanjo's temperament was particular. And you know, I had expected a lot more from Obasanjo, having spent time in jail. And I believe that the design of the Abacha regime ultimately was to have Obasanjo killed. So I thought that a man coming out of that brush with death would bring a more noble spirit to the opportunity to become president. But I think Obasanjo was a terrible and a pernicious influence on our democracy. And the way that he imposed Yaradua, knowing that the man was sick, and that he then put Jonathan, who had proved very little, and ultimately supported Buhari when Buhari ran. Nigeria has gargantuan problems.